welcome to my Pet Sorc PvE DPS build. Uh, this is very simple, but I will still explain the armor. As for your 5-piece, you want to run Necropotence. You do not have to run Necropotence because Twiceborn Star and Burning Spellweave are still good with this set. However, 5-piece Necropotence is insanely overpowered. As for your monster set, you want to run Alambris. You want one piece to be medium, one piece to be heavy to make use of the Undaunted passives. For your jewelry, you have two options, well, three. You have Moondancer, which is best in slot, Infallible Aether, which is just behind Moondancer, and then Willpower, which is also pretty good. However, even blue jewelry Infallible Aether is better than Willpower. For your staves, you want your back bar to be a Maelstrom's Inferno Staff. The trait honestly doesn't matter that much, even a Nairnhound one is really good. For your front bar, you have multiple choices. It can either be Lightning or Inferno based on personal preference. They're both roughly the same. DPS wise, you can either have it a Maelstrom weapon, you can either have it a Moondancer staff if you're using Moondancer jewelry, or you can have it as an IA staff if you're using IA jewelry. Moondancer staff and IA staff with their respective jewelry is the higher DPS, but there is a small benefit using a Maelstrom staff for your front bar. It will be slightly lower DPS, but with Maelstrom staffs, as you can see, I am on my lightning staff bars. I apologize, my keyboard is double tapping, so sometimes I'll roll dodge. I'm on my lightning staff bar. This is my lightning staff right here. My spell damage is 2,209, and if I slot a poison, I am still 2,209 spell damage, and this is not a tooltip bug. So, with a front bar Maelstrom weapon, I keep the spell damage that the Maelstrom staff gives, and I can do 3 different poisons, and they each do different things. The Drain Magic Poison gives roughly 200 more Magicka recovery throughout the course of the fight, which is actually insanely good, especially if you are not max CP. Another poison you can run is a Breach Poison, which is roughly 3% DPS increase to everybody. However, most healers will run Power of the Light, which already applies this debuff, but they will not have this ability up 100% of the time, so these Breaching Poisons will still give you more DPS. There's a third poison you can use, but I do not have any. I will link it in the description. And also how to make the 3 poisons. The third poison deals poison damage, which sounds bad, but it's actually pretty good. So, now that we're done with that, I'll go over the ability bars. Your front bar, you want it to be Force Pulse, you want it to have a Noob Filter, Crystal Frags, Summon Volatile Familiar, and Bound Aegis. Back bar, you want Liquid Lightning, Mage's Wrath, Blockade of Fire, Summon Volatile Familiar, Bound Aegis. For your ultis, you have 2 choices. You can either double bar Shooting Star, or you can front bar Shooting Star and back bar Greater Storm Atronach. Greater Storm Atronach is way higher DPS than Meteor. There is a downside though. Sometimes this ability bugs out, and whenever you cast it, it will negate itself and just never come out, and you'll get scammed out of your ultimate. That is the only downside. Well, there's also technically another downside, and that is it is freaking huge, and it can block the trial boss and potentially kill people because they won't be able to see what's going on. But other than that, it's great. So, as the rotation is slightly more complex than the non-pet build, but it is still pretty easy. Also, your Noob Filter, you have 2 choices. You can go Empowered Ward or Harness Magicka. Empowered Ward gives a longer lasting, stronger shield, and it also gives a small amount of group utility in giving everybody Magicka recovery. Harness Magicka, smaller shield, doesn't last as long, however it gives a lot more personal Magicka recovery. But you also get 2% spell damage from Empowered Ward. It's personal preference, use whichever you want. If if you're having problems with the sustain, I would recommend Harness Magica instead. Okay, as to rotation, the rotation is as follows. Remember to light attack before each and every ability, and do this down to the dot. It is still a very simple rotation. Until execute phase, there's only 4 abilities that you even use. So you want to remember to light attack before every ability. You want to start with Liquid Lightning, and then Blockade of Fire. The reason you do it in that order is because if you look at my timers to the right of my ultimate, they'll both run out at the same time. If I do Blockade of Fire into Liquid Lightning, you'll see that Blockade runs out way, way, way before Liquid Lightning, which is a DPS loss. So that's the first thing you do. So you apply these dots, and then you bar swap, and then you use your pet. The reason why you want to use your pet after bar swapping back to your front bar is because your pet will have a chance to proc your crystal frags. You already have it double barred, so there's no point using it on your back bar because it cannot proc your crystal frags. So, I'll do a very short rotation on this dummy just to show it off. So, keep the dots up, crystal frags proc because they went back to this bar, and now you just spam force pulse and use crystal frags until your dots run out, and then repeat. That's literally the entire rotation, and then you just repeat it until 20%. At 20%, it changes slightly. The only thing that changes is now you will never leave your back bar. 20%, you will just, once it's during execute phase, which is 20% on a sorcerer, just apply all your dots. You will not bar swap to apply your pet, and then you'll just spam Mage's Wrath. So now I will do a DPS test on an actual dummy. I need to slot Elemental Drain, so I'll actually be able to sustain. Keep in mind, in a trial scenario, I would have a lot more sustain than this because there would be people throwing orbs, and there would be synergies that I could pop, etc., etc. That would actually give me more magic sustain. So here we go with the rotation. Keep in mind, if your crystal frags proc and your dots are about to run out, it's better to prioritize your dots instead of crystal frags. Other than that, it's really, really simple still, and insanely overpowered. As you can see, I am pulling insane numbers right now, especially for being solo buffed with such a simple rotation. It is approaching 20%, so I want to get ready to start spamming my execute. It is now 20%, so now I stay on my back bar and spam my execute until I need to reapply my dots. As you can see, I just pulled 38.5k DPS, solo buffed with this pet build. This build is extremely insane. It's honestly really broken. However, there are a few downsides. There are a lot of trial bosses that you cannot use the pet in. Some of them being in Veteran Sanctum Ophidia, hard mode. Your pet will constantly die every single time it does the World Breaker. So it's not worth using the pet there because you'll have to constantly resummon it and lose DPS. In Veteran Ethereal Archive, the final boss, your pet will spread Chain Lightning. So again, you cannot use it in the final boss of Veteran Ethereal Archive because you will kill your melees because your pet will spread Chain Lightning and increase the damage and kill somebody. I know there's more bosses that also, oh, and Veteran Maul of Lorcage, your pets will constantly die during the Twins fight. And also, I believe they also die on the first boss in Veteran Maul of Lorcage during Pillar phase. So you'll have to constantly resummon the pet and twins, and maybe the first boss in Vet Mall Blocage, so it's a DPS loss and it's not worth using them. However, it's still worth taking a Necropotent Sweat set and swapping out mid-trial because the DPS is difference is huge between a pet build and a non-pet build. So that's it for this video. If I forgot to explain something or if I failed to explain something properly, feel free to ask. Just comment down below, or even if you want to, you can add me. I play on PC NA server and my @name is @Leonova. Thank you for watching, and I hope I helped.